The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it's Wednesday in the Riv.
And we've been stood up.
Yeah. Obviously we told everyone that we were going to have City Councilor Joe Camara, candidate for mayor, on today's show. And he did confirm with you, I believe, right?
He confirmed with both of us.
And yeah, and he confirmed with me also. But I think he confirmed he's going to be here at quarter of the hour, and he has not arrived. Well, maybe he's wandering around like the tribes of Israel. I don't know, which will let me segue into something else later. But I don't know. He's not here. We apologize, obviously, but we're not. You know, he's an adult and made a commitment, and he has not.
Well, we're not the only outlet that's having problems getting a hold of him. So far, it seems like the only one that's able to get a hold of him has been the Herald News. But even here at the studio, for him to tape his 3 minutes or 3-minute message to the citizens of Fall River for the election, he hasn't come in to do it, and they're having a difficult time getting a hold of him. This isn't a good thing, I mean, because it says a lot to you as what he may be like as a mayor. Because if he can't meet a commitment, not as a mayor, how is he going to meet that commitment as a mayor?
Yeah, well, you're right. I mean, we've got to look. Behavior is the best indicator. People say, he said, sometimes actions speak far louder than words. That's where that old adage came from. And you watch the way a person behaves in certain situations, and it's a good indicator of what they're going to be in other situations. So, at least I'm a firm advocate of that. But look, the other issue is that he has an opportunity not to give a 3-minute soundbite, not to give a 1-minute answer and a 30-second rebuttal. We made it clear we were going to afford all these candidates the opportunity to basically have ample time to explain many of their platforms and their positions and why they want to be mayor and why they feel he should be mayor. So. It's a missed opportunity, and
it's a sad opportunity.
And as I said, I'm sorry that our viewers can't see him today, because the reality is we want you to be as educated as possible on these candidates and on the issues. It's extremely important that you know these candidates as thoroughly as you can possibly know them. At this point, this election does not have a primary and a final election. We're looking at an election that we're splitting votes, where people with far less than 50% of the vote can win this election. And the less you know about the candidates, the more it becomes a popularity contest. And this should not be a popularity contest. We should be looking at somebody who can turn this city around. Most people, absent the zombies, think this city's in big trouble. Obviously, everybody else in the state does. Everybody else in the country does, where we've been raided for crime and other things. We have major issues in this community, and all this other political baloney, a change in a charter, it's not going to change any. It's only going to change the method of leadership. But the leadership is important. What direction, the captain steers the ship is far more important. And this is it's important that we get to see these candidates in a forum that I believe gives them time to show you how they behave in front of a camera, how they are in an atmosphere where they're not being soundbite can dances, and you can get a feel of them in the first show, and then the second show we can get in depth, questioning them on their, on their platforms, and I think it was really good for the people. I'm just unfortunate that, you know, as I know, I believe the mayor's on tomorrow on a local radio, and he has chosen not to come. And fortunately, Councilor Camara said he was going to be here, and he's not. So if he comes wandering in, we'll put him on the air as soon as he does. But if he doesn't come wandering in, oh well, I don't know. And I left notes. I was going to talk about Representative Omar at our next show where we didn't have a guest, because I got a whole ton of stuff on her, and you know what she did in 2012, but I had it all verbatim. You know, I don't like to paraphrase if I can get the thing accurately, and I actually had the exact text that she sent. And
well, here's something that came in from our viewers via email, not even via text, via email, because it's so lengthy. I'm only going to give the viewers first name. It's Linda. It is not Linda Pereira. Here are questions I never heard asked of anyone who runs for anything in this city. What are your plans for cutting government? For cutting taxes and fees? Will you eliminate every patronage job along with its appendages of gold-plated health care and pension plans created by every mayor prior to your term? If not, why not? Voters pay more attention to millionaires who become politicians instead of politicians who become millionaires over the course of their terms in office. Big government is a beast that can never function as a giant feeding machine. It starts out as intrusive, becomes authoritative, and then becomes totalitarian.
You know, now you got me screwed up. I know the word, totalitarian.
Totalitarian, yes.
There you go. Too many T's
I knew it too,
morning.
but I couldn't get it out there.
My tongue is
Right.
sticking. Well, that's a very good question, but obviously you're preaching to the choir here. You know that my buzzword is small government, is lean and mean, and we actually asked. I think I actually mentioned that. We didn't question him in depth, but I think I did mention that when Paul Coogan was on about the buzzwords that we used to use, that a no-frills government, a fat government. But let me just. And I agree with about.
I want to finish this though.
Okay, go ahead. Oh, it's more totalitarian. Yeah. We didn't stop at totalitarian.
It feeds on more.
Okay, Linda, you go for it, girl.
It feeds on more and more power, which is then used against the people. We only need to look at the poorest, most destitute areas of the world to see totalitarianism. Woo!
Yeah, totalitarianism
at work. On the other hand, totalitarianism does not work in a small government. Guess why?
She used that word just to screw you up and me up for a little while. That's what she did. She used that a lot. And look, I agree philosophically with most of that. The only thing that I will disagree with, we can, it's not my opinion. It's a fact, because as you know, she talked about a gold-plated retirement system. It's a gold-plated retirement system for politicians. They can get 100% of their pay while they work and still get their pensions, where the average working person who worked 30 or 40 years with a menial job. Sure. Yeah, and I think that's got to be for the general public to understand. As a member of the retirement board, number one, let me tell you that 60% of the people in the city of Fall River that are retired are now living on less than $25,000 a year. That's gross. So it is a gross, it is gross that they're doing this, because what happens is if you make the fatal mistake of living too long, your pension never goes up because you can only get $360 a year. It's the people like the politicians who retire with these $200,000 and $300,000 pensions that are killing the system, and the cities and towns, as you said, big government, when they skim money from the retirement system so they can spend it. I went before the council a year or so ago, or 2 years ago, and presented the figures from 2002 to 2012, where this city overestimated what they were going to get on a return so they could take more money and not give it to the retirement system, and spent it all. It's gone now. To the tune of $89 million less than what New Bedford put in, which is a similar. It might have been, maybe we should have put in 86, or maybe 100. Who knows? But in that ballpark, let's say close to $100 million, they skimmed. and they blew it. And what was the result of that? The result was that the pension system in Fall River went from 70% funded down to 40% funded. And now the same politicians who would skim that money are now complaining about the cost of the pension system. If this money had been put in between 02 and 12, their pension liability would be virtually nothing at this point in time. The pension system would not be a major burden. It's a major burden for one thing. Government can steal the money, not put the money that they should into the pension system, where the people who work for a living have to pay it out of their paycheck every single payday. And at the end of the day, when they tank the system by skimming money, they cut the benefits of people who have worked for 30 and 40 years. And not for a lot of money in many cases.
And let's make something else clear to the people.
And that has to be perfectly clear.
Yeah.
As usual, there's one. You know, the pension system is a symptom of a problem. The disease is not the pensioners for the most part. The disease is government.
Oh,
and
yeah.
You're right. The disease is government. Because who are the only pensioners that don't suffer from this? Politicians. We just said a couple of shows ago that politicians are allowed to get elected to a position, collect their entire pay, and still get their entire retirement.
Yep.
If you go out as a regular retiree and you start a business, you forfeit most or all of your pension, depending on how much money you make, because there are caps. So the safeguards are there only for the working man, as usual. As I said, the symptom is a pension problem. The disease that gave us that symptom is government.
But you know, the other thing that people need to understand, those who are not pensioners, because you know this, Massachusetts does not have any employees paying into the Social Security system. So you're not eligible for Social Security. And if you've worked and paid into the Social Security system, it gets dramatically cut because the states don't pay into the Social Security system, and neither do the employees. Now, if Massachusetts did like Rhode Island and have everyone pay into Social Security and the pensions would not be taxable, which is a key. The pension would not be taxable, and they could collect their full Social Security payment, which is the way it was supposed to be set up. Yeah. But the state said, wait a minute, we can save some money here. So let's not have them pay into Social Security, and we won't have to worry about it.
And you're right, but the only thing is, the characterization you made is they didn't save anything. What they really say is we figured out a way to get more money for us to spend and give ourselves pay raises.
Right.
Because they didn't save anything. Because all the money they've saved in all the years that we haven't been in Social Security, which has been, you know, centuries fundamental, almost since civil services implementation, basically.
Right.
Where is it?
Right. Nobody knows.
I tell you where. Charlie Baker's pay raise, the state reps and the senators' pay raises, their stipends, all of, all
housing allowances,
the car allowances, all the things. And just for the sake of clarity, each individual community has their own board, but fundamentally the pension system overall and the rules that guide it is state-run. It's state-run. So, your benefit levels and stuff like that are fundamentally statutorily run by the state. Each community has its own retirement board, and believe me, this is my second term on a retirement board, and I can guarantee you there's no way they're skimming money. As a matter of fact, it's ironic we talk about this because they're trying another money grab. They're going to try for a pension obligation bond, which is a way of, and we talked about it on one of our previous shows, which is a way of basically taking a loan to pay your rent. This is their obligation. They're going to take it and say, well, we're going to save money. No, you're not. You're going to have all that money you should have paid into the system to blow again. But what they don't tell you is, actuarially, if their figures are wrong, which they will be ultimately, because it's a volatile market and things go up and down, you still have to pay. It's like taking a loan to pay your rent, and never assuming that your rent's ever going to go up. Yet that they turn around and put groups change groups where people can retire earlier, put a bigger burden on the system. They give massive pay raises out to all their friends, and then they pump people into the system who didn't work 30 years like the average person. So, look, again, as we said, and I'm glad you brought that up, Linda. We appreciate your input and everybody's input. That was a very, very cogent, presentation, and I virtually totally agree with, the problem, and my buddy Milton Friedman, you give them the Sahara Desert, you'll run out of sand in 5 years. The reality is, this is what's happened not only in Fall River, on the state level, on the national level. We look at the Congress, it's horrifying. So, but you hit it on the head, CJ. But they're not, one thing about government, they never save money. All they're doing is freeing up money for their pet projects and pay raises for themselves.
And that's one of the things, we've talked about this before. Government is not a business. It is not supposed to show a profit and loss. Their only revenue stream is from us, the taxpayer. Yeah. And with that, they have to understand, when our pockets run dry, what are they going to do? Because that's what they're doing to us. When you look at a city like Fall River, which is jacking up the rainwater tax, which now another community is looking at putting in a rainwater tax, and they call it, though, a rainwater tax. That's exactly what they're calling it. Well, if it's a rainwater tax, it's illegal because you can't tax us that. Yeah. But nobody in the city has taken them to the state to court on it. And imagine if we did, and the court ordered them to pay it all back to us. I mean, the city would be broke.
Yeah. Well, they called it a fee in Fall River anyway, so it's a stormwater fee. But look, as well as I do, one thing they're good at is identifying ways to free up money for them to blow. And that's the thing. They'll look at, Fall River's got let's get one of those in, and that gives us more money to spend. Because as you said, Linda, they never stop spending. They never stop, and it's never for the people. Government is not a business. Government was created for what? It was to provide security and services to the people. We pay our taxes for those fundamental rights. What does it say in the preamble? In order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, and promote the general welfare for ourselves and our posterity. Isn't that what it says?
Something like that.
That's pretty close to what it says. I know that pretty well. And
I can sing it.
and that's what the government is supposed to do, ensure our general welfare. But they ensure their specific welfare, in my opinion, because we look at what government has become. It's become this monstrous vacuum cleaner, sucking every dollar out of the people. And what have they done? And it's the people's fault. We refuse to not elect these idiots. We keep putting them in office. Get rid of the other congressman. Get rid of the other guy. Don't get rid of my guy because I know him, or my cousin knows him, and I can call him up and ask him for a favor. That's the problem we have. The problem is we don't get rid of these boneheads. We leave them in, and look at what they've done for themselves. Have they fixed the pharmaceutical industry? No. Why? They don't have any problem. They don't pay for their drugs. They have the best healthcare system on the planet. And they have it for life. And they get a giant pension. They don't have to spend 30 years in Congress to get a pension like you do in most jobs. One day, they get a pension. They get a health care. These people have a different set of rules they live by. Even in our own state. Only politicians can collect their full pension and a full pay, unless you're a political hack, like the police chief of Braintree, who got his mayor to go up and push special legislation for him to be able to stay with his $100,000 plus police chief's job, retire, get 80% of that, and then get rehired as a retiree and get his full six-figure salary again. The moral of that story is, if you're a politician or a political butt kisser, there is no limit on how much you can rape the taxpayer.
Oh, that's definitely a statement to make. Hey, did you notice that the state got more money? The city got more money from the state for public safety. $1.38 million.
Oh, yeah, we got more money for the schools, too. There was already announcements they're going to hire 65 people. Let's see how,
more people.
Let's see how many of those are administrators and overseers of the pro. Didn't our superintendent, who, by the way, still doesn't live in Fall River, even though there's a residency requirement, wasn't he talking a while back, we covered it on a show, about some program, and he was going to hire people to monitor the monitors who were monitoring the monitoring of the program?
Well, according to the most recent school committee meeting, 15 or 16 paraprofessionals are going to be hired.
Yeah.
But nowhere was anything said about...
16 out of 65. What about the other jobs?
Oh, that's going to be adjustment counselors, guidance counselors.
Yeah.
I don't know what else.
Not teachers, classroom teachers.
But that's the thing. Yeah, nobody heard anything about teachers again.
Nobody's hiring anything to educate the children. You know, we got enough counselors. You know, get a couple of, hire a couple of shrinks, stick them in the hospital.
Maybe we'll get a dean of curriculum now.
Maybe we can get maybe we can get a dean of guidance counselors.
Yeah.
Maybe, but it's just insane. And look, but I got to get to Omar, and I don't have my notes. So I'm going to bring. I know we don't have a show next Monday, right? It's a holiday.
Next Monday's a holiday.
So that means Friday. Hopefully, we'll have a guest. I'm sure that
Erica will show up.
Erica Scott Pacheco will show up because she actually, she actually says, look, not a lot of people do not know me, and she realizes she's being on every show she can to introduce herself, and good for her. Kudos to her.
And she sounds really good. I mean, she can talk the talk.
Well, we'll see. We'll see Friday.
Yeah.
But I got to get back on Omar.
Ilhan Omar.
Yeah, Ilhan Omar, who I know they're saying, oh yeah, well, and again, I had it quote the euphemism she used. Number one, I don't accept her apology, because if you read her apology closely, not only was it disingenuous, she didn't even say she was sorry for offending people of the Jewish faith and Jews. She said Jewish Americans. So I guess all the rest of the Jews in the world she doesn't apologize to. It was a rather superficial and disingenuous apology, in my opinion. But she wrote a tweet or an email in 2012, which fundamentally, and I'm paraphrasing again, she said that the Israel has hypnotized the world. And then she called on Allah to let the people see how evil they were. Hashtag Gaza, hashtag Palestine, which, if anybody knows anything about the Middle East, that's where most of the problems are, on the Gaza Strip with the Palestinian Liberation Front. She's a Muslim fundamentalist. She may even be a Muslim radical, and yet they elected her. This was posted in 2012. And that's why I'm going to get my notes, and I will bring them in on Wednesday, and I will read it verbatim. But when she was censured on that tweet or whatever it was, saying that they hypnotized and they're evil, she said it was unfortunate. It was an unfortunate choice of words, or something to that effect. Isn't it amazing how Democratic politicians, they just never say anything that's politically incorrect. It's unfortunate wording. It's overly passionate.
Well, what's
the average guy and the average man or female who makes a statement like that in public will lose their job, have their life ended,
Well, I want.
But if you are a woman, minority, and a Democrat, you can say fundamentally any damn thing you want, and then say, "Oh, unfortunate choice of words."
Well,
hashtag Gaza, hashtag Palestine. You don't think there's a deep-seated and rooted problem with the state of Israel, with her? If you can't get that, you better you better adjust your thinking, because this goes back to the Crusades. And believe me, I know. I am half Middle Eastern.
Let me read something.
My mother grew up in Lebanon. She was born in the United States, taken back to Lebanon as an infant. She was a Christian, a Maronite Catholic. She came back to this country in 1923. They used to hide her in the chicken coops when the Turks were coming during the First World War. She was persecuted as a Christian in the Middle East. So if you don't think that radicals, and I'm not just saying radical Muslims, radical Christians are just as bad, remember, nobody's without blame. Radicalism in any form is no good. Those are the people that kill. Those are the people that kill doctors in abortion clinics. And whether you agree or disagree with abortion doesn't give you the right to go murder other people. You're complaining because you feel they murder children, and then you murder them. That's a little that's a little over the top. That's why radicalism is no good in any form. But I think this individual should not be in Congress. And if I was, I don't even know what people in Minnesota were thinking. And if they reelect her, I'll tell you what message does that send to the rest of the world? That this woman, look, it's pretty apparent that she is a fundamentalist, just in her wording. Not once, but twice, all the way back to 12. Remember.
I have to say something. Joe Camara just showed up. He stepped in. That's why I said you're late.
You're 30 seconds. So.
Well, no. I told him we'll put him on next Wednesday. He put in his appointment 10:30 to be here for, because I guess he thought we were going on at 11. So we'll have him on next Wednesday at 10. He'll be here for 10:30 to be on the show at 11. Okay.
Okay.
And yeah, I got that right here in the control room.
All right. Good. But so this is the kind of thing we have to deal with in politics. And on a note in Fall River again, we'll switch gears.
Well, before you do that, because we're just about out of time, I want to read this quote from Nancy Pelosi on this. Earlier in the day, a statement by the House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Democratic leadership called Ms. Omar's tweets anti-Semitic. The statement added that legitimate criticism of Israel's policies is protected by the values of free speech and democratic debate, but that anti-Semitism must be called out, confronted, and condemned whenever it is encountered without exception. So,
well, she had to, because she got tremendous pressure from the rest of the world to do that, and even that's kind of weak, because everybody in the Democratic Party knew what she tweeted in 2012.
Right.
Everybody knew that she called Israel evil. So if that isn't anti-Semitic, and say they've hypnotized the world, what is anti-Semitic? So, we can't have people like that in our government. This country was created, as I said many times, as a melting pot. When you got here, you were supposed to become an American and have America as your nation. So, with that, everybody have a good day.
And we're sorry we didn't have Joe Camara here, but
well, we do have Joe Camara here, but it's too late. But we will have him on next week.
We will have him on next Wednesday, 10:30. We'll be here. So
11 o'clock the show is.
Thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you again on Friday.